I said,
Oh, you should do this again.
I said there was an airport coming up, and I called and
Nobody
said,
wants that.
we're still, it's an unfamiliar with the airport, help me out.
Anytime. A little bit of
It's not a big deal, you
that
get
would be
Uber, you get
nice.
a call and everything else, but back then it was probably
Yeah,
Dude, is Mrs. Levitt.
stuck at the airport till
I like that, really, I thought that was a good.
that's what I did, I just sat on the ground, blew through, and I went into this,
Yeah, man, I saw
there's a lot of them fly through it, so much, but you never know how far it goes behind you.
Yeah.
Ring lights are on.
Wait for it.
Okay, I have 6:00 on the official Apple iPhone timekeeper. I want to call this meeting to order Tuesday, June 11th, 2024. All those that can stand, I'll lead us in a quick prayer and Joey will lead us in a pledge. God, thank you so much for letting us be able to live down here on this Mississippi Gulf Coast, God. Thank you for this city. Thank you for all that she means to us. Help us to continue to move her forward in the right directions with good, sound decisions. In your name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, if everybody would get their phones, put them on quiet, try to avoid some beeping noises here. All commissioners are present tonight. Before we get into the agenda, I would suggest if somebody would make a motion to maybe move old business after new business, as some of the discussion could be relative to.
I'll make a motion that we move it.
All right, I have a motion, Matthew, second, Mike, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, so we'll hear that last. First item is going to be the approval of the minutes from May 14, 2024. Anybody have any questions or comments on those? And if not, do I have a motion to accept? I got a motion by Joe, second by Matthew, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We're going to temporarily skip number 3, move down to item 4A. This will be a public hearing. Everything will be a public hearing on the new business tonight. We will start 4A as an ordinance amendment to Chapter 3, Section 9.4 of the UDC to modify the overlay boundaries to the Porter Avenue Overlay District. I understand. Motion to go into public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Mike, second by Matthew. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? In a public hearing. Carolyn?
Yeah, this is just we were asked to look at the existing Porter Avenue corridor overlay district, which was identified in the UDC along with its adoption. Primarily, the purpose is to look at development aesthetics and create, to maintain the identity and character of this identified corridor. What you have in front of you is just we've been looking at these overlay districts and the areas just adjacent to them. When you look at this particular overlay district, the area to the south is zone RM2, which is kind of a transitory transition zoning, which does have some minor elements of commercial activity. So, and many of these parcels are visible from Porter Avenue, the ones around Ethel Circle. So looking at those, what we're proposing is to clarify and expand the boundaries of this overlay district to include the properties, and I want to clarify semantics, properties as opposed to parcels. Properties can be made up of one or more parcels and considered as a property and function in that way as long as they have the same ownership. So we specifically use that word properties, so if there are more than one parcel, it would still function and would split that property. So we did look at the ones that were already constructed prior to this time and also fit that criteria of adjacent to Ethel Circle properties, including all included parcels in that property. So just to expand it and to clarify it a little bit, in fact, the description that's currently in there just addresses Porter Avenue on both sides and did not clearly identify the parcels. So it was a nice, pretty graphic. So that's what this will do, and it is done by ordinance as it is part of the UDC.
Does anybody have anything directly for Carolyn before we go to public? All right, we'll have a chance later. So we are discussing essentially extending the Porter Avenue corridor overlay district Does anybody in the audience want to speak in favor of expanding that? And anytime we have a call, it's on your agenda, but just, we'll be limiting to 5 minutes each on these. Does anybody want to speak against the Porter Avenue extension? Name and address at the microphone.
Sure, my name's Don Scruggs, 317 Pine Drive here in Ocean Springs. And I'm not really opposed to it. I'm just wanting some clarifications. I do applaud and appreciate the city's efforts to expand this district. I think doing what was done with the downtown overlay district is a good idea as far as short-term rentals, because it kind of, or the downtown corridor, because it puts this kind of activity where it belongs. I think in close proximity to downtown. Mine is just, some, I guess, questions as to, with the outline of the map that clearly identifies all the properties along the circle and those that are adjacent, what the real need for those qualifiers are. Including properties that are in 2, I get that. They're all within the footprint. I appreciate Carolyn's definition of properties as she interprets it, but we all know that certain individuals can interpret things different ways. And of course, with this being condos, there's going to be a lot of different property owners involved. So are those property owners of those condos going to be seen as different properties and not properties that are adjacent? So it is, I personally like everything that's done except for those 3 qualifiers. I don't understand the need for them. Also the one that says constructed prior to May 2024. If y'all been behind or along that historical, you'll see there's some properties in there that should be encouraged to be maybe upgraded or downgraded and then upgraded. I mean, there are some properties that could stand some improvement. This actually discourages the raising of those buildings and putting up new buildings. And I don't know what the advantage of that is. I believe that if you have a building that was constructed in 1940s or 1950s that are not up to current code, that the upgrading of those buildings should be seen as a positive. This right here basically says that if, in my interpretation, everybody's interpretation should be different, but if a building were to burn down, a building were to be destroyed by a hurricane or anything else, that it would no longer be constructed prior to May 2024, and therefore it would be not included in the Porter overlay district. I think we should encourage development in this area that's been identified, and I think that those 3 qualifiers really just make it more problematic. But I do thank you so much for your attention, and I do appreciate the staff working on this much needed change.
All right, thank you, Donovan. All right, anybody else in the audience? We'll just go speak to the Porter Avenue corridor overlay extension. Name and address at the microphone.
My name is Harley Klein. I'm at 515 Rayburn Avenue. I guess the only thing that concerns me is with the CMX1 rezoning in question and the seeking to be able to open up the property to short-term rentals. I mean, this just seems like, if I look at, the next piece of business about changing, opening up or removing the cap for short-term rentals within the overlay district, it just seems as if the city's accommodation of that through incorporation into the Portland Avenue corridor. So I'm confused with its inclusion based on what's going on with the CMX1. And just concerned about what kind of precedents that sets, at least from my perspective and perhaps others' perspectives, about how the city's going to handle requests for rezoning, which it almost seems as if it's being done with the incorporation of this property into the Porter Avenue corridor.
Okay. Thank you. All right, anybody else want to speak about the extension of the Porter Avenue overlay district? Going once, twice, sold. Do I have a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
All right, motion by Matthew, second by Joey, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We're out of public hearing. What are y'all thinking?
All right. question for Carolyn. Overlay district for the rest, what is the time frame that was on structures free for the rest of the overlay district?
And honestly, that portion could be taken out. What we were looking at is there are aspects of the corridor as far as aesthetics and how they are constructed, and including them doesn't mean that if the building, like anything else, it doesn't mean that if the building goes away that it can't come back. It just would have to come back with the requirements. There are, and I think I have most of them listed here in your packet, you know, the porches and the orientation and things like that would have to be complied with. And many of these properties or some of these properties that we're including don't currently meet those. So, and I see, again, it's just was our thought process when we were going through looking at those that they don't currently meet it, but if they were already constructed at this point, it still is included.
So,
But to Donovan's point, to clarify, that's really not necessary. It was just part of the thought process when we were.
okay, so it could kind of just,
It can be- we can remove that
the date
qualifier,
could kind of
yeah.
be removed, it's
Yeah.
just more of the formality. of-
That was just to address any kind of concerns about the aesthetic and construction requirements of the corridor, you know, if they
Okay.
aren't currently done.
All right.
Um, yeah. But, you know, and the properties could be, I understand, you know, somebody in the future interpret properties different. We always have this semantic conversation between properties and parcels and lots, and they're three different things and are handled differently. So that could be expanded to say, properties made up of one or more parcels.
What I was thinking on that, because I like, you know, Ethel Circles kind of only comes off of Porter, it really is almost an
It's
extension, I
kind
do
of
like it, so,
yeah.
but I was thinking like, because there is these property parcel concern, but what if it was like solely access from, or some way to say access from, that way, you know, we,
Right. Then I went through several different ways to kind of describe what we were looking at, and yes, looking at the one condominium development is made up to two parcels that cannot legally be combined, because one is in a, and this happens quite a bit, one is in a, one's meets and bounds, and one is in a platted subdivision, and you cannot, the county will not combine those into a single parcel ID. So it is a developed, but it's a functionally one property.
do you think it would, I mean, would that accomplish it though, to say or access from?
Well, I mean, if you go over on D, it's just basically the front building face primary entrances for parcels with Porter Street Avenue addresses that face Porter Avenue.
Well, and that has to
Well,
do
but-
with the requirement for facing Porter Avenue. Obviously,
Yeah.
ones on Ethel Circle can't face Porter
What
Avenue.
I don't want, so the reason I like to add the access solely from Ethel is I don't want it to ever become like somebody figures out they buy the house on Cleveland and try to build a road to get into like a, you know, not just the condo, any of them, right? I don't, but then you're merging the neighborhood with.
So you want to
know,
put solely access?
If you added both properties made up of one or more parcels, that way you're clarifying it, and access solely from Ethel Circle or Porter Avenue.
Because I think if we start connecting it to the city streets, then we've made the overlay district
Correct, it needs to be
lead
encapsulated.
into something. So I'll, even if we left it, I think it'd be good to have like a only from Ethel Circle. If you did your property, I mean,
Yeah, so
parcels,
including those two
no.
caveats, taking out the second one and then expanding the third one to say properties to one or more parcels and access from Ethel or Porter only.
yeah, but I don't get to say this very often, but I agree with Donovan. I don't want to discourage like, you know,
No,
somebody wants
it
to.
wasn't intended, it was
Right.
meant to clarify. Yeah.
All right, any other discussion? And so I'm gonna call for a motion. I would just say if the motion is made and y'all, whoever makes the motion agrees, just make sure the motion includes removing stipulation 2 and rewording stipulation 3. Will, do we need to try to word it here, or are we?
I would try to say it in a motion to
All right, does anybody want to take a stab at a motion as exactly as we want to say it?
With that caveat.
Would anybody want to make a motion that said, I don't know if I can do this or not, Will?
I'll give it a stab.
Go ahead, Kevin.
All right.
Save me.
Recommend approval of the modifications as presented and reflected in the attached draft ordinances, with the exceptions of removing criteria 2, constructed prior to May 2024, and with the rewording of criteria 3 from adjacent to accessed by Ethel Circle.
I would like to see the word solely.
Yeah, solely.
Solely accessed by Ethel Circle.
And the parcel, the changing of the.
And the property made of one or more parcels.
And add a criteria that,
Well, it wouldn't be the criteria, it would say up at the top, and including properties made of one or more parcels that.
and including properties that are made up of one or more parcels.
All right, so Kevin's got a motion, I'm gonna try to just paraphrase, so with the caveat, it would say, and include, and including properties made of one or more parcels that meet the following criteria: 1, as presented, no 2, and 3, access solely from Ethel Circle. Is that right?
I'll give it that.
Perfect. Yeah.
I'll second that.
All right, I got a motion by Kevin and a second by Matthew, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, and that would be not, is it on next week, or we
No,
skip?
it'll be second public hearing in front of the board, and it'll have those changes.
So it'll be on the first meeting in July, which is, for those keeping score.
July 2nd.
The last second.
Okay. So that will be up to the board for final approval on July 2nd. All right, next item, 4B, an ordinance amendment to ordinance number 2015-11 and section 510 of appendix D of the Ocean Springs ordinance, we'll say UDC, regarding permits for short-term rental in residential areas. Do I have a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved.
Motion Matthew, second Marshall, or Mike. Motion Mike, second Marshall, all in favor? Aye. All opposed. All right, we are in a public hearing. Carolyn?
This does, it's kind of a carryover from the previous short-term rental changes that we made last summer as far as how to treat the overlay districts. And so looking at Porter Avenue, very similar to the downtown overlay district, because it is a transitional and primarily commercial area, to address short-term rentals in the same way that we did with the downtown district. They still have to go through the same permit process, inspections, subject to revocation. It's just they aren't under the cap and don't have the public hearing. So they're treated essentially similar to commercially zoned ones. But that would be the only change, is to treat them as we currently do in the downtown overlay district.
Okay, anybody have anything for Carolyn? Carolyn, just to be abundantly clear, I mean, we are talking the entirety of the Porter Avenue overlay district, correct?
Because currently, the majority of these properties in both these districts are zoned commercial. So they would be treated, obviously, as commercial. So it's for the handful of residential properties contained in the district.
We're not changing zoning, we're just adding the Porter Avenue overlay into.
Into the same, yeah.
Treating it the same as the downtown.
Yep.
Good. All right, we are in a public hearing. Do I have anybody that wants to speak in favor of the ordinance regarding permits for short-term rentals in residential areas? Anybody in opposition to? You can get your name and just kind of reiterate if you'd like.
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Name and address at the microphone first.
Again, Harley Klein, 515 Rayburn Avenue. Can you clarify what the public hearing, so any public hearing requirements means?
So the next items on this agenda are short-term rentals. Every one of them has to come to us for approval, but not if it's in the downtown or the commercial for now. And then if this passed, we wouldn't hear it if it's downtown overlay, Porter overlay, or commercial.
Okay, so it solely pertains to the cap restrictions.
Well, no, it's if somebody had a short-term rental on Porter, they would not have to come get a public hearing at our board anymore.
Okay.
But like the neighborhood ones, like the Magnolia Ward Porter on this one, do have to come for now because this hasn't been adopted.
Okay, yeah, no, it just basically my concerns regarding what the wording of that. I didn't know that necessarily just pertained to the short-term rentals.
Is there still notice? I'm sorry to.
No.
Yes, there's still, you mean?
Like the letters
For the ones that are in the districts.
I didn't resend it back out.
Oh, no, I'm just talking about in general, though.
The districts are handled like commercial, so no mail outs or anything. It's just basically, but they still are held to all the same criteria and standards and guidelines, restrictions, all of
Inspections,
that.
all of that.
Yeah, they can still be revoked for non-compliance. We still do inspect everything except for having to come through the public hearing process and the cap, but everything else is handled exactly the same.
Kind of cut you off, sorry, go ahead.
No. I guess it's mainly, my concern is that unlike the downtown area, this entire strip, and it's mentioned that it's basically one property deed off of Porter. So it's effectively all transition, and it all abuts residential properties, even with the extension of the inclusion of Ethel Circle. And now you incorporate Martin Avenue and Cleveland that are basically, again, it's all transitional. So I guess the public hearing, removing the public hearing requirement to me doesn't make a lot of sense when, it's an opportunity for the public to have input, to gain information, and be involved in the process. And I think it's more important in this particular area because of the fact that it's such a small strip through, it abuts, such a large residential region, and it's pretty much all transitional other than the properties, west of Martin west of Martin on the north side of Porter. But the rest of it all butts up to residential properties. So I think just with the consideration of development going on in the area, which we all know is inevitable, giving residents the opportunity to voice their opinions and also be engaged in the process is a little bit more critical, especially with all the issues that are kind of being raised right now about the downtown overlay district and noise and development in that area. I think it's more critical along Porter Avenue. So accommodating it without any opportunity for public hearings to me seems like you're overlooking, the residents that make up this community and live in the downtown region and are going to be directly impacted by these changes.
Yep.
So.
Thank you, Art. All right, anybody else in the audience want to speak regarding the item 4B, ordinance regarding permits for short-term rentals in residential areas? Is that a hand? Name and address at the microphone, please. Yes, ma'am.
Susan Lloyd, 1209 Porter Avenue. There are rentals, short-term rentals. There are several on Russell Avenue, one going towards downtown, and then there's a couple, I think, going towards the south. Then on Cotsum, there's a short-term rental that just opened up on Cotsum on my side of the street. Then there's a short-term rental on Dewey Avenue across from the library. Now, directly across from me, they're asking for, I believe, another short-term rental. Is that what the question is at Porter Avenue? Another one's coming in?
Not on this conversation.
We're amending the Porter Avenue ordinance to allow for a couple of buildings to be included in that overlay.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, later on the agenda, there's an item, but not on this item, but there's a 1212 Porter, Marcus and Vicky Mamani. That'll be heard, that's item 4E.
Okay, but my question is when is enough? I mean, I've got several around me in my small neighborhood, and every time I turn around, there's a sign from the planning commission that another person is, I thought at one time it was only supposed to be 35 or something like that, I heard several years ago. And now they just seem to pop up constantly. And this is my first time just being a little bit concerned. Probably I should blame myself for just not being more aware, but I just feel, as a person who lives by herself, that how many more strangers are going to be allowed into short-term rentals with the downtown as close as it is, as crowded as it is already? mean, these people have access within 2 blocks of downtown Ocean Springs for anything that's going on. And I'm just a little concerned, and I was just asking for some clear guidance in it.
Yeah, if you can call the planning department, they can give you a better answer. There is caps in the ordinance for 60 citywide outside of commercial and overlay districts. And we're at the cap, we're here in we're at the
I
cap.
think we got a couple of meetings left of applications.
But I mean, as far as like applications in and all, we're at the
Yeah,
cap.
they're all,
Yeah, we're all on a wait list now.
Yeah, so we're on a waiting list now. I don't, how long is the waiting list? Do y'all know off the top of your head about?
About 10 total in both areas. yeah.
And, okay. So, yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Periodically, I want to put in perspective for everybody, before we put this short-term rental ordinance in effect, there was no control, just like there's no control over long-term rentals. So by doing this, we realized that short-term rentals were of concern to people, and the best way to control them is to have a process that people have to go through and give some teeth to the residents, because if that property, after it's inspected and passes, that if they do anything that, causes problems, you render a complaint, and if it's sufficiently a problem, then they lose their ability to have a short-term rental. Okay, so the whole reason behind this is to put some control over that. Long-term rentals, we can come in tomorrow, put long-term rentals all over your neighborhood, there's no control over that. Okay? That's all.
All right, anybody else want to speak while we're still in public hearing? No. Do I have a motion to close public hearing? Motion Mike, second. Heard Marshall, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are out of public hearing. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Got a question, just out of curiosity. For the overlay district, if hypothetically for all residential within the overlay district, if we were to do a public notice of, not a public hearing, but a public notice that short-term rental is going in the overlay district, I think that would add some comfort and some transparency that I think would probably.
Notice?
It's just, hey, this is what's going on, and if they do have.
Oh, I meant like, what's your, like, do you want to require the mail out still?
Kind of like it would be a mail out, but it wouldn't be a public hearing on it. It would just be, hey, this is what's going on, and if they have a legit concern that something might be going on, they can get with the planning department and let them know what's going on.
I mean, a public comment period.
Yeah, it's public comment. I think that would be, I would be a little more comfortable with having that added in. I'm not saying the whole thing, if you're a commercial zone, just keep it at that, but if you're a residential in the overlay, is have it where public comment.
You would want that in, if the order passes tonight, but also in the downtown as well.
Correct.
Yeah. Just trying to see where something like that could fit.
Well, I'm just looking at it right here. It's under the 510B test. It's to exclude the exclude any capital restrictions, and public hearing requirements is to kind of just add the part of the public comment added in for residential in overlay. I don't mean to make it complicated, but I think it's something that would be greatly appreciated.
I think you could leave B intact as it is and then add a C or an E, whichever way you want to look at it, that says residential properties within overlay districts
would be notified for a public comment.
Oh, yeah, something like that. Just have it be a separate item instead of trying to reword that one, huh?
And I guess my question to that, I just want to clarify, is are you, if comments are received, what? Where do they go?
It's basically, if there is a legit concern, that would be the building department, planning department would deal with it at that time. If somebody was in violation of something,
But how do you determine I mean, everyone's gonna have the legitimate.
Well, no, I mean, if something was going on, like, so that's kind of,
Non-spec, I mean, like if, I don't want to bring up covenants, but I mean, if there was something along the lines of a reason that there couldn't be allowed.
I just did.
It's not unreasonable to let them know, I mean, we can put a notice that says, hey, this is being approved, and to give, because part of the mail out that we've always done with short-term rentals gives them frequently asked questions and kind of answers some of those concerns. So sending out a notice that says, yes, this is happening, and this is where you can call if you have questions, that's part of that notice. As with any, even with the commercial, as that review is done, if any infractions are found, it won't get approved. So if somebody did bring us something to attention that was unknown at any point in the stage, it would be considered. Not necessarily an input period or a time period, that's where I think it might get complicated, but certainly to let them know that if they have any issues or things that they want to report, this is where they report.
well, that's all I'm
But yeah, I would even
saying, is this, yeah.
I think it's just, correct me if I'm wrong, Matthew, but you just want to notice. I mean, you don't care if
Yeah,
it's,
just a public
Just to let
notice
them know.
that, hey, this is what's going on.
yeah, just similar, so.
Any agenda item at any meeting, at any time, can be commented on. You can send me comments to my office.
Yeah, like the public will know that they're getting a short-term rental in their neighborhood until.
Correct.
I mean, my question on that, Matthew, would also be, at what point do you mail out notice? Is it when an
Yeah, me too.
application is received? Because we've got a backlog of those, and then I would assume it would be at the time an application is pending potential approval,
Right.
but at the very end. So I think that would need to be defined in the ordinance on when notice would be mailed out.
Because we usually do it now like a 500-foot radii to the adjacent park.
Right, and we don't do it till it's past inspection and it's all ready to be approved. So if we did, and I'm just telling you if this is what you're thinking, when we reach that point in this process, we could go ahead and send those notices out. You know, even if a permit is given, if something comes to our attention that should have nullified it or revoked it, we would handle it in turn, and then take it to the board to revoke it. So at any point, if something came
No,
up.
I'm basically saying if the application comes in hand and they go through the whole process.
Just to
then-
notify them.
And I'm fine with leaving it general that they will be provided notice in the ordinance and then come
Yeah, I
up with
just
the
want-
common
it's
practice
just-
on when exactly it's
Yeah.
mailed out.
It's just kind of like have it under 510B-2 or B-1 or whatever, just have that
Properties within
little,
500 feet will be noticed.
yeah, will be noticed.
Upon approval.
Yeah, yeah.
That's easy enough. And the cost would be incurred by the applicant, just as it's a pass-through cost for the mail-out.
Correct.
All right, anybody else?
For all overlay districts?
That's
Yeah, we could do that for
all
both
overlooked.
over.
Any residentially zoned property?
Yeah,
in the
residentially
overlay
zoned.
All right, anybody have any other questions, comments, concerns? I will say I tried to reread the Porter overlay district, and I think we're meeting the intent of it with, it's very focused on lodging, and I think it was said earlier that, we're in the area people want to be in anyway, so I think it's a good move. Do we have, anybody want to take a turn at a motion? Oh, yeah, we did. Yeah.
Sorry.
We got out of public hearing, didn't we? Yeah, officially, yeah. Come on, Mike.
Sorry.
Short timer.
That's it.
All right, does anybody want to take a stab at a motion?
Well, I guess I'll go again.
Not everybody at once,
I
right?
know. All right. Motion to recommend approval of the modifications as presented and reflected in the attached draft ordinance, and including that a public notice of all short-term rentals in a residential zone, regardless of whether they're in an overlay district, will have a public notice sent out.
And that already happens with residentially, so if you flip it and say, within the district residentially zoned
Including,
properties.
yeah, including within overlay districts.
It's already done for outside. So what you're saying, and if you just even want to add it to that one notice, that exclude from the public hearing process, except it will be noticed. to the same people at 500 feet. I'll figure out the exact words, but.
If it's in a residential zone, if it's a residentially zoned property inside of an overlay district, a public notice will still be provided to residents within 500 feet
At the applicant's expense.
At the applicant's.
upon approval of the short-term rental.
Yeah.
All right, I second that.
Motion Kevin, second Matthew, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That will also be on the July 2nd,
With the new wording.
with the new wording on the board agenda. All right, jumping down to 4C, 322 Magnolia Avenue, parcel ID 610-111-07000. Doug Berry and the Berry Living Trust are doing a short-term rental permit. Do I have a motion to go to public hearing?
So moved.
Motion Mike, second Joey, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We're in a short term, we're in a public hearing. Carolyn?
Yeah, and like I said, this is coming close to the end, so these are just the last ones that have made it under the cap. This particular one, the one on Magnolia, 322 Magnolia, the local property manager does reside on Glenwood, satisfying the local property manager requirement. The notices were sent out to 58 property owners within 500 feet. At the time of this memo, there was no input received. There was an inspection done on May 15th, and the maximum occupancy of 8 people and 6 vehicles was approved by the fire marshal and building official respectively. There were no code violations or police department reports, complaints within the last 12 months. It meets all the requirements within the ordinance for short-term rentals and is eligible for approval, subject to annual renewal.
Okay. Do you have any questions or comments for staff? All right, anybody in the audience want to speak in favor? I'm sorry, is the applicant here? Did you want to speak? You're not required to right now, and you can have a chance to come back if you need to. Name and address.
Coming down here for several years.
Name and address at the microphone, please, sir.
Sure you need that.
I do need it. I'll be in big trouble.
It's just for the washroom, sir. I see. Lisa and I have been coming down here for several years.
Name and address, sir.
We love what y'all have done with the city.
Can I get your name and address for the
Doug
record?
Beard.
Thank you.
My residence is 117 Swallow Drive, Brandon, Mississippi.
Perfect, thank you.
We purchased the house in Magnolia.
All right.
We require the ability to rent the house, but we plan to spend as much time as we possibly can down here. Those times that it might be rented, Kenny Foreman lives here, and he will be handling that, and we will not tolerate any disrespect to this community. We like it here. Thank you very much.
Same. Thank you, Mr. Berry. All right, anybody else in the audience want to speak in favor of the application? Is there anybody in the audience that want to speak in opposition to 322 Magnolia Avenue? Anybody else want to speak at all? 322 Magnolia. Once, twice sold. Do I have a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Matthew, second Marshall, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Do we have any questions or comments? And if not, do I have a motion?
I make a motion to recommend for approval a short-term rental permit, at 322 Magnolia Lane. Avenue, excuse me, I'm sorry, Magnolia Avenue, approved for short-term rental permit, subject to annual renewal.
All right, I have a motion by Mike.
Second.
Second by Kevin. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That'll be on the board on July 2nd for final, we recommend they approve.
And these are on
Thank you
consent.
very much.
Yes, sir. All right, next application will be item 4D, 613 Ward Avenue, parcel ID 601-302-10050, Jill Taylor, short-term rental permit. Do I have a motion to go to public hearing?
So moved.
Motion Marshall, second. Is that you, Joe? Second Joe, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We're in a public hearing, Ms. Carolyn?
Yes, okay, so for this one, on the local property manager does reside on Magnolia Bayou Avenue, Boulevard, satisfying the residency requirement for local property manager. 57 notices were sent out to property owners within 500 feet as of the time of this memo. No input have been received. The inspection for this one was also conducted on May 15th. Maximum occupancy of 6 people and 2 vehicles was approved. There had been no violations reported in the last 12 months, and everything else was compliant, therefore it is eligible for approval for a short-term rental permit, subject to annual renewal.
Yep. Anybody have any questions for staff? All right, is the applicant here? Did you want to speak? Name and address at the microphone, please.
Jill Taylor, 7 Mulberry Place, Ocean Springs. We have owned this property since 2006. We lived there for 6 years, then it's been a long-term rental since then. We would like to convert it to a short-term rental. Honestly, it'd be beneficial. My kids are grown, and it makes a nice place close to my home where they can come and visit me and not say anything.
Best of both worlds, huh?
And then, obviously, we would like to be able to cover the cost of maintaining the property and keep the integrity of our community. And we think short-term rentals have improved the aesthetics of the area.
Yep. Thank you, Ms. Taylor. All right, anybody else in the audience want to speak in favor of the application? Anybody in opposition to 613 Ward Avenue? Name and address at the microphone, please, sir.
My name's Bobby Shriver. I live at 508 Ward Avenue. I've been living there since 1940. Okay, I've been on Ward Avenue all my life. And Ward Avenue's always been an R1 street. We've always been zoned R1. And in reality, when you approve a property for short-term rental, you're approving a commercial enterprise, plain and simple. There's absolutely no other way you can describe that if you want to be honest. I mean, there's opinions about everything, but, okay. Airbnb, in my opinion, and short-term rental does convert residential property to commercial use. Now, if anybody would deny that, I'd like to hear that argument. In this particular case, Ward Avenue is R1 all the way through from Kensington Avenue to Governor Street. R1. The other reason, I think this would set a precedent on Ward Avenue for future development in this Airbnb thing. And, I've always lived on Ward Avenue as a resident. I've never had a commercial enterprise next on my street, so I'd like to keep it as is. So I'd like to be in opposition to this change.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bobby. Anybody else in the audience want to speak in opposition to 613 Ward Avenue? Or just anybody at all want to speak about 613? Once, twice sold. All right, do I have a motion to close the public hearing? Moved. Motion Matthew, second.
Second.
Joe, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We're out of public hearing. What are some commissioner comments, questions? If not, do I have a motion?
I'm making a motion to approve 613 Ward Avenue for short-term rental, subject to annual renewal.
All right, so motion Joey, do I have a second?
Second.
Second Marshall, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That'll go to the board on July 2nd for final approval. If I can keep the paperwork in order here. All right, 4E, 1212 Porter Avenue, parcel ID 614-30007.000, Marcus and Vicky Maloney, short-term rental permit. Apologies if I didn't get the name right. Do I have a motion to go into a public hearing?
So moved.
I got a motion Matthew, second Marshall, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are in a public hearing. Ms. Carolyn?
All right. You have a local property manager with an address on Wynwood, which does satisfy the residency requirement. Notices were sent out to 72 property owners within 500 feet. There is one letter that was received and is included in your packet. The inspection was conducted on May 16th and was approved for a maximum of 6 people and 3 vehicles. There had been no code violations or police reports in the past 12 months. Does meet all the requirements and is eligible for short-term rental permits subject to
Okay. Anybody have any questions for staff?
I had a quick question. Can you explain again the numbers of where we are with the cap, not just that we're at it, but how many do we have, how many we have in queue?
Right, for the density zone, I'm trying to remember the exact number, I believe there's about 4 or 5 that are in review process, and I think 1 or 2 on the wait list. In the rest of the city, it's approximately the same, maybe about 6 in review, but there's about 8 on the wait list.
How long has that wait list been?
The wait list, I mean, we had kind of got it caught up, but now that we have, what will happen is we look at the number of permits that are available. And as soon as we've hit that number, which we have, the slot is reserved for that one in review. So it's a fluid thing. If somebody doesn't renew, which every month they come up for renewal, if somebody doesn't renew, a slot will open and you call the next person on the list. So there's really no way to tell how long somebody might be on the wait list. It might be a month, it might be 6 years, I don't know.
Yeah, the only reason I'm asking this is because I know the property was recently purchased this year. Do we skip over other people that were in the, okay, that's all I know.
We did have a lot of people that last summer, when we were working on the new caps, a lot of people put their name on the list, but we have repeatedly tried to contact them and they either decided not to do it or did not turn an application. So we waited about 4 months of that and then started just moving through them.
The letter in opposition was about parking.
Yes.
And so this is not going to, the parking will not obstruct the street in any manner?
Just like with any properties, the parking is always based on off-street. So the maximum number of vehicles is based off of the number of vehicles that should fit on the property. If it is a no parking, if it is signed for no parking, those vehicles are subject to towing and enforcement, and that would show up on an inspection and cause problems for the permit. So it is signed, it didn't used to be signed, I know no parking there, but now that it is signed there, if we received complaints that their renters were parking there, the owner would be notified, they would receive a warning, if it continued, it would go to the board for, consideration, so. And that's with any of the ordinance reads violation of any code could be a cause for revocation. So that includes noise ordinance, trash pickup, anything. But yes, if it is signed for no parking, their guests cannot park there.
So the parking map that's hand-drawn here shows 2 in what looks like what would be a driveway, and then there's another parking spot that looks like would that be a garage or it's?
Yeah, there's a covered and.
There's a covered spot?
It's a carport.
It's a carport and then 2 open spaces, but they're all off-street.
Yeah, carport and then 2 of them.
Yeah, they won't, when they do the inspections, they don't consider on-street parking even if it's allowed.
Okay, any other questions for staff?
I have a question.
1 second. Well, hold on 1 second. We'll let the applicant speak first and we'll get you back up. All right, so with no more questions, does the applicant wish to speak? I'm assuming you're the applicant. Name and address first, please.
I'm Vicki Mooney, M-O-U-N-E-Y. We live in Hernando, Mississippi, 412 Hernando, Mississippi. This is my husband, Mark. We're like the couple from Magnolia that had a house on Magnolia. When Mark was down here at Keesler years ago, he fell in love with this area. And we had a house here for 10 years, about 7 years ago on Dewey, and we loved it. We wanted to get another house that was kind of close to that area, so that when we got an opportunity to get this house on Porter, we were thrilled. And our permanent residence is in Hernando, but we will be coming like them 3 or 4 months a year, and then we would like to rent it out when we're not here, and the success of being good at that and keeping the parking right and keeping the noise down is a good property manager, and Kenny Foreman is our property manager, and he is available 24 hours a day. So if anybody had a complaint or any problem at any time, they could call him. But anyway, we just appreciate the opportunity to be considered, and thank you all so much.
I could just make a quick suggestion, nothing official, it's just me and you talking. Just make sure that it's, you say, please do not park on gravel driveway, do not park in the yard, just maybe make it abundantly clear, no street parking
Oh,
on your
that's something I
roads.
forgot. On our side, that's the street they were worried about, we're gonna put signs also
Okay.
there, and we would like, I don't know what the setback is for wrought iron fences, but we would like put one across the front and down there, and put the sign on the fence, and just, we don't want anybody parking on our grass halfway and
Sure.
halfway in the yard either.
That's right.
And I'm very hyper about that, and I'm hyper about keeping, property attractive and kept up, and we're working on it right now to get it, everything looking good.
Great, thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right, thank you, Ms. Mooney. Got it right now. Does anybody in the audience want to speak in favor of? Anybody else want to speak in favor of? All right, anybody in the audience want to speak in opposition to?
I've lived across that house since it was built. I've lived on Porter Avenue from.
Oh, I'm sorry.
20
Miss
I'm sorry,
Susan, yeah.
Susan Lloyd, 1209 Porter Avenue. I've lived on Porter for 25 years. And that property, since it's been built, she says that not parking, but do you have room for 3 cars?
We really have room for 4.
In the back part of your house? Because everyone else has parked on the grass and on the gravel.
Ma'am, can we usually like to keep this here, but
Oh, I'm
y'all can get together after, in fact, we would
okay.
encourage it, but yeah.
But my main concern is that it's always been where the cars have parked on the grass and the gravel.
Right.
And I was always under the impression that there just wasn't that much room for more than 2 cars and a golf cart in the back.
Gotcha.
And that was my only objection because I've seen 10, 12 cars over there, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's gonna.
One thing I would encourage you is part of our ordinance does require a local property manager, which is you, right? So I mean, if you have his number, that way if there ever is any kind of violations or anything, you can get him. He would be the guy that would, be, like you said, 24 hours a day, just, if there's a loud party, you can call him, or the police. If there's cars in the road, you can call him, so.
And you did say 6 was the occupation?
Yes. Yeah, 6 people,
Okay.
6 people, 3 cars.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, anybody else in opposition to, or just, how about in general, anybody else want to speak to 1212 Porter? All right, do I have a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Matthew, second Joey, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, we're out of public hearing. Does anybody have any additional questions or comments? And if not, do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve 1212 Porter Avenue for short-term rental, subject to annual approval.
Okay, motion Joey, second by Matthew, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, that'll be on July 2nd for final approval by the board. What? Approval. Yeah, that's the wrong word. 4F, 114 Ethel Circle, Unit 3, 612-750-0040000, Roger and Rebecca Mathis, short-term rental permit. Do I have a motion to go to public hearing? Motion Mike, second Joey, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, we are in public hearing. Ms. Carolyn.
All right. This is a condominium unit. The local property manager has an office on Cleveland, which does satisfy the requirement in the code of having brick and mortar office within 2 miles. So that is compliant. Because it is a covenant restricted development, we did get a copy of their covenants and they do allow short-term rentals, so that box has been checked. The maximum, it was inspected, notices were sent to 62 property owners within the 500 feet and no input was received at the time of this memo. It was inspected on May 16th and approved for maximum occupancy of 4 and 2 vehicles. No code violations or police reports have been documented over the last 12 months. And so it is eligible for a short-term rental permit subject to annual renewal.
Yep. Any questions for staff?
So my question, and I'll just get right out of the gate with it. So if the overlay district goes into effect, this one will then come back off the number.
It wouldn't count against the cap. It would free up a spot on the cap, yes. And any other, I'd have to go back and look and see if there's any others issued in
Within
that
that.
district, and they would be taken out. They would free up a spot on the cap, basically.
Thank you. I think we all had that question, Matthew. All right, anybody else have any questions for staff? Was the applicant here? Did you want to speak?
I'm actually a property manager on here for him.
Gotcha.
I'm
Okay.
okay.
You'll get a rebuttal if we need it. Okay, so anybody in favor of 114 Ethel Circle, Unit 3, short-term rental? Name and address at the microphone.
Russell Rayburn, 105 Fairmont Place. Can we just motion to go into public hearing real quick? I don't know if we did already.
Yeah, we did. I mean, we can do it again.
Got it, do we know who made the motion?
It was me.
I think it was me.
You were second, and Mike was first. Motion. Should we do it again just in case?
Sure.
Can we re-motion,
I make
Mike, to go into public hearing? and
Second.
Joey? Does anybody want to speak now that we're in a public, oh wait, all in favor?
Aye.
Does anybody want to speak now that we're in a public hearing? I look.
Oh, it's
He's conveniently located.
Russell Rayburn, 105 Fairmont Place, Hattiesburg. I just think this is, I would just like to speak for it. I think it's a good area, transient area for short-term rentals, not in the neighborhood or into zone. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Russell. All right, anybody else in the audience want to be in favor, supportive of the 114? Anybody in opposition to 114? Ethel Circle? Okay, anybody at all? 114 going once, twice, sold. All right, do I have a motion to close public hearing? Motion
Second.
Matthews, second Joey. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are out of public hearing. Do I have any questions, comments from the commissioners?
Again, I'll ask the same question that I did before, Dylan. This property looks like it was recently purchased. We didn't skip anyone, we went through the proper channels.
Made it under the cap.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else?
Make a motion to approve the residential short-term permit for 114 Ethel Circle, unit number 3, subject to annual renewal.
Second.
Motion Kevin, second Marshall, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? July, second for final okay. All right, now, we had skipped item 3, old business earlier. We need to revert back to that. Item 3A, please note, this was sent back to Planning Commission for further review by the Board of Aldermen on May 7th, 2024 meeting. This is 114 Ethel Circle, parcel IDs 612-750-04000, 614-600-03100. Russell Rayburn requesting to rezone from RM2 Multifamily Residential District to CMX1 Neighborhood Commercial District. Do I have a motion to go to public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Matthews, second Joey, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we are in a public hearing. Is this still you, Carolyn? This is Carter?
May I ask you really fast? If this pleases staff and body, we're comfortable with just tabling this. With the recent modifications, the proposed modifications to the overlay district, this rezoning may not be necessary. We do want to keep it on the table in the sense that the Board of Aldermen do not always follow your recommendations. So as long as they stay consistent with this, then we're happy to officially withdraw this application after the board meeting in July.
Will, do you have any problem with that?
No, I'm fine with it.
From a procedural standpoint?
We'll say the applicant withdrew it and, well, that's, I assume you can start saying the board meeting.
Well, the board meeting, if they approve it, if they approve the overlay at the board meeting, then we'll just withdraw it the next day.
But it was the board's wishes for the planning commission to review it, not necessarily your application pending, but if you're removing your application, then that's fine.
Tabling.
If you're tabling your application, you can review later, that's fine.
Yeah, because we went here till July 9th.
It'd be the second Tuesday in July.
I'm fine with you tabling your
Okay.
application, and won't go.
I just didn't want to go procedurally wrong. So we are in a public hearing. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Matthews, second Joey, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Do I have a motion?
I'm going to make a motion that we table the
the Porter condo rezone at the applicant's request to a further date.
Okay, motion to table at the applicant's request by Matthew, second by Joe, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That will not be on the July 2nd, never mind, that will be potentially heard back in a month. And that would be re-advertised or re-noticed if it does come back to us next month.
If you table it, I mean, and Will, you can say typically if you table it to a specific meeting, then you don't have to re-advertise it. So if you're specifically tabling it to July 9th.
I'll re-advertise.
Yeah.
Just,
I'll re-advertise and do whatever I need to do.
Okay, I think it's probably best. All right, we are now down to the general public comment. If anybody has any non-agenda items to discuss related to the planning department commission, now would be a good time. Not everybody at once. Commissioner forum, any commissioners have any items of note, discussions, thoughts?
Me?
Yeah.
I can come one more meeting.
Good.
I'll give my thoughts at the end of that one.
Yep.
Our meeting left.
Yeah, that's fine. General public comment, 5 minutes or less.
Okay, no, it's less than 5 minutes. I just want to acknowledge my appreciation for the notice inclusion on the short-term rental. I think the issue, at least that I have, and I think a lot of residents have, is that a lot of these applications, as much as people appreciate the area, are coming from people that don't live here. They don't live downtown. The management companies, I appreciate the fact that there's a requirement that there's a local management company, but, you know, aside from one of the short-term rental applicants in today's meeting, everyone else lives somewhere else, you know, and for those of us that are raising families and committing ourselves to this community in the downtown area, you know, I appreciate the consideration, because it does seem to be growing even just in the 5 years I've been here. It's kind of shocking. And to see that most of the houses that have been up for sale, much like you pointed out, and have sold recently, are short-term rentals. And they're not families or folks that are coming in to live and commit themselves, not necessarily to say that coming for holidays and 3 or 4 months out of the year isn't a commitment, but for those of us that live down here, you know, we live down here because we love living down here. Part of that is because of the character and nature and community of downtown. So just thank you for that.
Thank you. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion Joe, second Matthew, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.